Well, hello, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. Nice to have you here tonight. And very happy again to welcome Michelle Thompson. This is our regularly scheduled show, What If? We're just going to talk about all types of things in spirituality, paranormal, alternative information, whatever comes up, and whatever we want to say, well, what if fill in the blank? Michelle is a practicing hypnotherapist, helps a lot of people, life coach, author, all sorts of good stuff out of Houston, Texas. And Michelle, how the heck you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Excellent. What are you doing new this week? Anything?
No, pretty much the same thing. Oh, you know what? I did start on YouTube. I have started a 10-part series, which is the 10 principles of spirituality.
Excellent.
And so basically, it's some stuff that I actually saw when I went and saw Wayne Dyer, and he passed away, and I don't know, I was kind of feeling sort of like, you're kind of like remembering all these things. I went and saw him live, and I ran across a video of his, and he was talking about it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to kind of reinforce that and kind of give it a little bit of my own twist. So that is what I started one of them already, which is be open and not attached to anything.
Excellent. And what is your YouTube channel?
It's Michelle Thompson, Life Coach.
Michelle Thompson, Life Coach.
Yes.
I just put that into the chat. So everyone should go over there and subscribe to Michelle Thompson, Life Coach, and check out the great information that she's doing on Wayne Dyer with a little bit of Michelle twist on it.
Yes. So excellent. Are we gonna, do you want to have that conversation about Yahweh tonight?
Sure. So you want to ask, what if Yahweh's not such a bad guy, right?
Well, I'm just not. Okay. So going by what I did this whole video on, I'm open. Okay. I'm open and I'm not attached to anything.
Okay. So, are you sure, Michelle?
I know, not really, but
okay.
No, I'm just joking. Actually, I'm just not. I have on my own research and everything. I'm just wanting to kind of like figure out like where are you coming up with some of this stuff, because some of my personal experiences versus some of the stuff I've looked up, I'm finding that Yahweh really isn't really mentioned very much in the Bible, and that was my first quest. Like, why? And the only place that I could really find it was the Moses thing. And he said, hey, I didn't identify myself to this person, but that's who I was. I just didn't tell him. I said I was a Dame or something like that. And he goes, but I'm going to tell you my real name. It's Yahweh. And so I was kind of like, okay, well, is it possible that it's really Marduk? And I, because I've done a lot of like research on that whole thing and was thinking, is it possible? So through this whole research thing and trying to figure out like, where is Yahweh listed? Where is he mentioned? Like, where is he at? I ended up going to the Kabbalah. And interestingly enough, I've heard you say this before, that there's no vowels in the Hebrew language. And so it's actually spelled YW.
Most people say YHWH.
Yeah, YHWH. And yeah, but in the Kabbalah, the W is replaced with a V.
Right.
And so, and I sent you like a little email of like the breakdown of the different arms of God that they in the Kabbalah. It has like 10 circles. Did you get that?
I remember looking at it, but I hope you're not going to ask me to pull it up.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
And so just anyway, incidentally, Yahweh appears in the Bible. When you look in the Bible, every time you see capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, that's the Tetragrammaton. That's Yahweh. So it's in there a bunch of times. Yahweh, I think, appears maybe 9 or 10 times. Jehovah, 18, 20 times. But every time you see capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, that is a Tetragrammaton. That is Yahweh. But of course, the Jewish superstition is don't pronounce it. So the scribes lifted out the name Yahweh and put in, substituted that capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. So it's in there more than you would think. but
Okay.
it's so that's it's in there more than you think, but let's continue to talk about this. This is very interesting.
So, okay, so you're saying, so I was trying, because I wasn't, like I said, I when I was looking it up, it said under Lord, it would refer to all the different names of God. Like it listed, and when I went to Bible Hub, it listed all the different names. So I was like, when is it actually saying Yahweh? Because any of those, I mean, from all the research that we've done, the Anunnaki gods are primarily the ones that are in the Bible.
A lot of people think that, and the only way you know for sure that it's Yahweh's being talking about when it's Lord all capitalized. That's the Tetragrammaton. That's Yahweh. The other times, sometimes it's Kairos if you're in the Greek. Sometimes it's it escapes me in the New Testament, but it can also be different names in the Old Testament. But every time you see the capital Lord, that is Yahweh.
Okay. So thanks for explaining that, because I was really frustrated with trying to figure out where is this at, you know? And the only place that I could really find it was in the Kabbalah. And when the Kabbalah explained it, they said, okay, so they talked about the beginning of God, the I am presence, and and Kabbalah kind of explains it in a very metaphysical sort of way, like the way that, you know, the infinite God, or the I am presence, or, you know, I am, and one of the words was meaning that comes from nothing. And then he basically, I'm going to kind of give you the kindergarten version here, but
you bet.
He basically decided, you know, that he wanted to expand himself, and he started bringing out the mother side, the son side, the creator side, the knowledge side. And anyway, it broke out into 10 portions. Okay.
10 manifestations, right?
Yeah. 10 manifestations called the Sin Sof or something like that.
Yep.
SINSOF or something like that. And as they're talking about it, he eventually says, and the name for all of this, and he has a name, or it has a name, and it was YHV. I mean, whatever, you know what I mean? But the W was replaced.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, so is it possible that because Enki and Marduk presented themselves as many different names and many different times, if you go through all the different writings, sometimes they're this person, sometimes they're that person. And
absolutely.
And so I'm wondering if he wasn't, you know, because Marduk was, you know, frustrated because he didn't get possession of the earth, and he was upset. And so is it possible that when he was going through this process and trying to capture different little pieces of the earthlings and trying to gain power, was he just representing himself as something that he really wasn't, like a misrepresentation?
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because in the Enuma Elish, which is, you know, basically it's the Sumerian part of the Sumerian tablets. I think it's tablet 3, and it talks about, you know, the Enki and Lil and all that. And there's tablet 3 of the Enuma Elish talks about Marduk. And Marduk walks in and he says, I am the great God. I'm the most powerful God. I'm the guy that's in charge. He destroys the earth, or Tiamat, which was pictured as a goddess, with something called the Imhulu, this weapon. And all the other gods bow down to Marduk and say, oh, Marduk, you are the great one. Marduk, take the ascendance. Marduk, be in charge. And that's what happens. Interestingly enough, in the book of Job, Yahweh walks into a council of the Elohim and gives that same speech that Marduk gave. I believe Yahweh said, I am Marduk, or I'm coming in the power of Marduk, and you guys have to accept me as ultimate God. The other Elohim said, no, dude, not going to do it. So Yahweh then unilaterally destroys the perfect earth that the Elohim had created. Now, did he just sneak attack them because they were all gods? I think, Michelle, that he had somehow come up with that Imhulu that Marduk had, and Yahweh was pretending to be Marduk, and he used that Mhulu that somehow he had stolen.
You think it's the opposite.
And he destroyed the earth with it. And then the Elohim said, bad boy, spanked him, deposed him, kicked him out of the council, took the Mhulu back from him. And now he's still trying to convince us that he's Marduk. In fact, in the book of Isaiah and Ezekiel, when you couple that with a clay cylinder found at Nineveh, on the clay cylinder, it says, I am Marduk. Marduk, I have commanded you to build the temple again at Jerusalem. Same thing copied in the Bible, only they replace Marduk with Yahweh. So was Marduk trying to make a comeback as Yahweh, or was Yahweh trying to pretend that he was Marduk? Yahweh has been shown in the scriptures to impersonate others. So I'm saying, Michelle, that I believe you're right, that Yahweh is pretending that he's Marduk, or at least was.
Well, that's interesting, because I was thinking it was Marduk pretending to be Yahweh.
I think Marduk is a real God, a powerful God, or at least was, and Yahweh is just a pretender. And he really doesn't have any juice. He can't do his own wet work. He's really not a God. He's been defrocked, dethroned. He's been neutered by the Elohim, and he still wants to run around and make us think that he's big and bad and tough, but he's not. So he's trying to convince us he's Marduk. And he's more like Marduk, that dog in the comic books that looks really big, but is really a little fraidy cat.
So the other thing is that when I was kind of doing a little more research today, and I was kind of listening to some of the other people's stuff on like Sumerian text and all that kind of stuff.
You bet.
And just kind of learning a little bit about, who he was as a person. And one of the things that came up was they were talking about how he died, and they put him in oil and brought him back.
Marduk or Yahweh?
Marduk. And they put him in oil and they brought him back to life. And the commentator, the person that was reading from the Inky, the book of Inky.
Right.
I think Zechariah Ascension actually.
Yeah, I've got that on my shelf. It's called The Lost Book of Inky.
Yeah. And so he did the translation. And so he was saying that the commentator, the guy that was talking about it, reading from it, was saying basically they just had the technology to bring people back to life. We have that now.
And isn't it interesting? I don't know if you watched did you see the Avengers movie?
Yes.
And they take Superman and put him down in this oil, and he comes back to life.
Exactly.
So it's clearly a Mardukian Anunnaki type reference.
So then if that's the case, and so they're not really immortal, is it possible he's just dead? I mean,
Marduk?
Yeah.
Sure, it's possible that Marduk is dead.
Yahweh is one of the Anunnaki. Okay.
If he is.
I'm not sure who he is, but it seems like the Anunnaki are the ones that really kind of decided they were going to kind of come in and start. So
are you postulating that Yahweh could be dead?
Yeah. I'm saying it's possible.
You know what? It's very possible that Yahweh could be dead now that I think about it. And it's just this thought form that's been created from all this worship all these years that's now masquerading as Yahweh, and it's a thought form, so it doesn't really have any power or juice. So that would explain why Yahweh's still doing a lot of this, but he never shows up and actually does anything, because maybe he's dead and it's just a thought form. Or
a spirit of, but I don't know. I mean, I do know that you and I were talking one day, and I had an experience where I had read that if you say the reason they didn't say the name is because the name is too powerful, and
right.
You're invoking the spirit or whatever, and so they stopped saying the name. And I thought, well, if it's that powerful, and if you say it, then maybe he'll just show up. So I sat there and just kept on saying Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Eventually I went into this really deep trance, and I found myself split in two. And it was like...
You were split in two?
I was split in two. It was like me, Michelle, and my higher self.
Wow, that's very interesting.
So my higher self was trying to chase me down, and I was running around everywhere looking. And it was real obvious what I was looking for. I was looking for truth. I was looking for answers. And I was looking everywhere, you know, I was going around, and he was trying to like reel me in, because the higher self was representation of a male.
Did Yahweh show up?
Yes. So he literally, like, my higher self brought me into this room, and he kind of like threw me down on a chair. And immediately, as soon as I went down on the chair, I locked hands with two other people, one on the right and one on the left. And as soon as that happened, I started vibrating, like the most intense vibration, where I could feel my part as being part of the universe, like I was part of it. Like, it was the most powerful, most intense emotional experience I ever had. You know, it was like, whoa, I get it now. And it was just so intense. Like, I could feel thoughts from trees and animals and the earth being alive and everything. It was just so intense. Like, it was like I stepped into the consciousness of the universe. And so then suddenly this huge light like beamed down, and he said with this very like voice that sounds like a voice that, you know, they describe in the Bible, you know. It's like
a Charlton Heston voice.
Yeah. I am Yahweh, you know,
a voice of many waters,
you know. And he said that, and he goes, I am Yahweh, as he appeared. And I like jumped off of the chair and like kind of fell down into a you know, like kind of like a bow position
of worship or obeisance.
Yeah. I don't know why I did that. I mean, I was out of body. I have no idea. But it was like I did that, and I went, Father. And he said, I have nothing against you nor your brothers. And then he just disappeared. And then I go running out, you know, like thinking I'm going to catch him or find him or track him down. Like, where are you going? And there was this fence all around me. And my higher self opened up the fence and said, you're not trapped. And he opened it up and he let me out. And so I was like, okay, well, why did he come in there and say that?
But he did something first, Michelle, that bothers me.
What is that?
He accepted your worship.
Well, but why did I worship him? That was the weird part. Like, why did I bow down? Like, why did my spirit go there?
Was it fear?
No.
Okay.
It was like you're in the presence of greatness in you.
Well, how many thousands of years have we been, or even tens of thousands of years conditioned? But I always, and this is me, you know, we're just talking, I say that anything that needs to be worshiped, wants to be worshiped, accepts worship, isn't a real God.
No, I agree with that 100%. I mean, that's why I am absolutely, I mean, pretty close to being like 98% convinced that every single God that was represented in the Bible was not a real God. It was.
I would agree with you.
I think it was an Anunnaki because of the way that they presented themselves.
And what's interesting is that the Christ in the New Testament refused worship. Anytime someone bowed down and before him, he said, no, get up, don't do that.
Right. He would go and he would wash somebody's feet, or
exactly.
He was absolutely, it was the opposite of that. And so, yeah, so it doesn't make any sense. You've got like the evil, vindictive God or gods in the Bible, in the Old Testament, and then Christ comes along and it's love and find the power within yourself and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So it never matched up for me. I never really understood that. So when I started learning a little bit about the Anunnaki, it just seemed to make sense. But I never could like place this whole thing with Yahweh, like, because like, who's right? How do we know? Like, what if Yahweh is the God of the universe and somebody's just using his name, and, you know, or, you know, when some Anunnaki dumbass is, you know, that's dead now that everybody's worshiping. I don't know, you know.
I've thought about that. I've wondered if this being that is calling itself or himself Yahweh, if he's really not Yahweh and he's just trying to, you know, he's usurped the name. And when the second coming of Jesus, quote unquote, it clearly says that it's Yahweh. It clearly says that he's covering up his own name with a cloth. It clearly says that he's calling out that he's the Word of God. It clearly says he's calling out that he's Jesus Christ the Lord. So Yahweh has been shown by his own word to be a person. that hides his identity and a person that takes the identity of others. So to me, it's well within the realm of possibility that this being that's going around now saying, hey, I'm Yahweh, I'm Yahweh, I'm Yahweh, isn't Yahweh. And it's interesting that Christ also said that if I give testimony of myself, then my testimony isn't true. And I have the, it sounds like he's trying too hard. I'm Yahweh, I'm Yahweh, I'm Yahweh. Hey, I'm Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. Are you really? Why are you trying to convince me? Because the Christ said, if you're trying to convince me that you're who you say you are, maybe you're not.
Why would he go to that much trouble? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, the representation of what I read in the Kabbalah, Yahweh is, or what the Kabbalah says. I'm not saying the Kabbalah is even right. I'm just saying that the way that they explained it, it's the name of the I am presence. So that presence has good, bad, this, that, mother, father, this. I mean, it's the all-inclusive everything. So it's not going to have an opinion or get angry or get jealous or, it's not going to be like that.
And yet Yahweh says by his own words, I'm jealous.
Right,
I'm vengeful,
exactly.
I'm angry.
Absolutely.
So I don't think for those reasons, I say that he is not God. So there's some, is he dead? That's a good question. Is this just a thought form trying to, think about it. There's arguably 8 billion people on the planet. And you got about 1.5 million Roman Catholics worshiping Yahweh. You got 1.5 million Roman Protestants worshiping Yahweh. You got 1.5 million Muslims worshiping Yahweh, only calling them Allah. You got almost 1 million Jews worshiping Yahweh. So you've got at least 4 million, maybe 5 or 6 million people worshiping Yahweh. So if you're not really Yahweh and you're a thought form and you need energy to stay alive, leveraging or aligning yourself with the worship of 4 or 5 million people would be very, very smart. Or if you are alive and you're just trying to convince people you're Yahweh and you've been doing it for a long time, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just keep the gig going.
Or maybe he died. Okay.
Yahweh.
Yeah. Or Marduk or the both, or if they're the same, who knows?
I think I don't know if Yahweh tried to copy and say he's Marduk. I almost think they're the same God under different names.
So, okay. So let's just say hypothetically, it's the same one.
Okay.
And, it was an Anunnaki god and he died. Okay.
Do I have to go to it's an Anunnaki god with you, or can we just say that he died?
Okay, fine.
See, I'm not sold on the whole Anunnaki thing. Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
The Sumerian tablets are legit. I mean, they're out there. There's some of the oldest writing, maybe the oldest writing. You can argue with the Vedic. You can argue with, some of the, but they're at least some of the very oldest writings.
Right.
And it's legit stuff. Zecharia Sitchin wrote, 4 or 5 books, which I've read them all. They're all on my shelf. And Zecharia Sitchin, well, when I was in the church, we used to call it evangelistically speaking. Zecharia Sitchin said a lot of things that weren't verifiable. And he said a couple things that just plain weren't true. So I don't have any problem with the Sumerian tablets and reading them and studying them as source material. I do have some trouble with the works of Sitchin. Now, there's a lot to learn there. I think he was very good as far as the history of it. But when he started talking about, this means spaceship and, it's this, when he starts getting real specific.
It was his interpretation is what you're saying.
Yeah, so I have trouble with a little bit of Sitchin's stuff. But the Anunnaki, and I thought many times, and many people have said that they were just beings that had hugely long lifespans, and they really were mortal beings. I think Rex even has talked about it being mortal beings. Rex Bear from Leak Project.
Yeah, so I think that let's say hypothetically they are, okay. So he died.
Leak Project hat.
There you go. So let's say he died. Now, okay, so when I die, I'm going to be in spirit form. So
right
now let's say hypothetically that he's in spirit form. it's not the most common thing for spirits to have, I mean, straight up, I mean, complete, like, you know, abilities to be able to just slap down and manifest themselves like they did in the Bible. So I think that he must have died after that. Okay. So I think that if that was the case and he died, what are you're worshiping a spirit that's living there, and I mean, he's just a spirit now, so you know, he doesn't have any abilities to do anything anymore. I mean, he's not going to show up. I mean, how many people have actually called out to him? I heard Wayne say he's actually challenged him and said and called out to him and said, manifest yourself, and he doesn't show up.
He can't.
He can't. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he can, because I think he's dead. You know, and
or he at least has been grounded. He doesn't have the juice that he used to have, if he did ever have any juice.
Well, okay, so that brings in another subject. So there's two more things that I did. I went into a deep meditation and I was asking these questions, and one of them, I saw him like shoot off into the universe, like really far.
You saw Yahweh do this?
Yes.
Okay.
Like gone, like he's done. That's it. Like, I didn't know if that meant he died or if he went to another universe or to start something completely different. But
could it be that he was cast out by the other Elohim?
It's possible he was cast out. I mean, but I saw him like that was it.
Gotcha.
And, okay, so that was one of them. And then the other one was, I was asking about this whole like soul farming thing. And I was like, okay, I don't understand this. Explain this to me. Now, the way that it was explained to me was that we all as beings need energy. And so they said, don't take offense to that. They said, okay, so look at
who's they, Michelle?
Huh?
Who's they that said this?
I'm guessing my higher self.
Okay.
Is speaking, because that's who I usually go to. Okay. And I like just ask for the information to be brought to me through my higher self.
I like that.
And so I'm saying they because I consider my higher self as a they.
I like that.
It's because it's a collective consciousness of all that I am. So they said, don't take offense to this, Michelle, just listen. And they said, okay, look, you build an audience. Let's say, take you for instance, Jeff, you're building an audience. And what happens is that you become more powerful. And for you to hold that power, you have to have the audience. If you lose your audience, you lose your power. Absolutely. Okay, because as you become bigger and as you become greater, you're going to walk in places and people are going to give you free dinners and all kinds of stuff. And you're going to have comatose hells and you're going to be treated like.
Now, I have received free Starbucks.
Have you?
I'm so big that I've received a free Starbucks before.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, I actually have a couple of fan people that email me all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. So it's kind of interesting. It's a different feeling. And so basically kind of going with that, like, you know, look at people like movie stars and everything. The only way for them to hold their stardom, for them to still maintain importance or a level of importance, is to have people worshiping them. And not in the sense of godlike worship, but like I felt about Wayne Dyer, you know?
Exactly.
Like, I loved him because I didn't never meet him. I've never seen, I mean, I went to and saw him, you know, speak, but I've never met him in person. Like, where is that love coming from? Well, I love what he represents.
Right.
And all the things, all the books that he's written and all the things that he said and his outright honesty and his life story. I just really thought he was a really incredible man. So, and he's always seeking truth. I mean, he went and he studied with all these different gurus. He learned from the Tao. He learned all this stuff from Hinduism. He went to just all over the world traveling to learn from people. And so he was an amazing guy. So what am I doing? Am I handing over my energy to him? So, and that's the way that it was explained to him. They explained to me, they said, look, anybody, even a god, can get a mass of energy that gives them power.
Right.
And they said, and everybody seeks power.
Interesting.
And
Does
so,
Wayne Dyer talk about, I've never heard Wayne Dyer say one word or never read one of his words, believe it or not.
oh,
Does
okay.
he ever talk about healing your memories or healing your past, that
Yes.
type of thing?
Yes. Yes.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. He talks about a lot of stuff. He's actually one of the first people that started talking about manifestation. And he wrote You'll See It When You Believe It. And it was one of the first books that was written on manifestation.
You know what's so incredible to me, and I knew this, but I haven't started to put it together till now. And this is going to blow a lot of people's minds, and it's going to make a lot of people upset. It might even upset you, Michelle.
Okay.
But
Go for it.
Wayne Dyer,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, I actually have read some of his books, but I haven't really internalized them. But anyway, Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done is look through the table of contents of his books and see what he writes about. I haven't actually read them. And if you read through the table of contents on Wayne Dyer's books, and you look at what Wayne Dyer did as far as went to all these places and studied with all these people and cobbled together, you know, the best of all these informations and stuff.
Yeah.
It eerily parallels the life of a gentleman named L. Ron Hubbard.
Really?
They went to the same places, studied the same things, talk about the same things, but Wayne didn't suffer from surrounding himself with some megalomaniacs that stuck him in the back and created
Nor
a
did he.
great
Yeah,
big
he didn't
cult.
claim that he was going to worship an alien either. You know.
Well, maybe Wayne missed that one.
Maybe so. Yeah.
But it's weird. They talk about so much of the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One was a lot smarter than the other one as far as the way he presented himself and who he ultimately got hooked up with.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. It's you know, you never know. Life is funny.
You can get information from a lot of places if you're willing to eat the meat and spit out the bones and use stuff that works.
Well, it's all in the air. It's all in the collective consciousness, and it's. I think that. So I'm going to admit something and be very vulnerable here, but
Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? Here it comes.
Yeah. There's times where I get frustrated, and I get frustrated because I spend so many hours studying something. I come up with new inventions, new thought forms, and I start putting it together. And next thing I know, I see 20 other people doing the same thing. And it's like, oh my God, how many times is this going to happen to me? And I realized that when you create a thought, the thought goes into the air, and then it gets kind of bounced off into other areas, and people start thinking it's theirs. So
I have that happens to me a lot. Mm-hmm. I'll be thinking about something, I'll be writing it, and then somebody else is making a YouTube video out of it.
I know.
Are they spying on me? What's going on? So I'm actually, this sounds a little bit selfish, but I'm actually starting to learn ways and experiment ways of shielding my ideas.
You mean spiritually or
energetically shielding my ideas until I get them out and release them?
Okay, well, you need to share that info with me, because this happens to me a lot. Like I've found, I was like the only person talking about reprogramming your mind. And now it's like hack your brain, reprogram your mind. Like everybody's doing it. And I'm like, where are you guys? Why are you stealing my stuff? You know,
we just had Robert Robinson on.
I saw that. And I was sitting here going, what the hell?
Yeah.
I know. It's crazy, but it's honestly, it's in the air. It really is.
It's in the ether, and we start pulling it down and we start projecting it back out there. So I think if you want to, you know, keep some of your ideas for yourself and bring them out, that you probably should. And you could do this. I mean, you can figure it out, shielding your own thoughts.
Well, I haven't ever thought about that, but I've got to figure that one out. Right now I'm trying to, I can only do so much here, you know, because
and I don't think that's selfish. I mean, you pulled it down, you discovered it, you thought about it, you were given it.
Mm-hmm.
And why not? Oh, you know what? Delaney Jackson, I think she was kidding, but she just said, when you're doing your ideas, you should wear your tinfoil hat. And these are supposed to be EMF protective hats. So Spiritually, when you're cooking up your ideas, put on your hat, Michelle.
Okay, I will.
Get yourself a hat that covers up your stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think that's selfish?
I know, I feel bad for even feeling, like a little frustrated, but the bottom line is that even if I am somebody else is duplicating or thinking that it's theirs and repeating or whatever, the biggest thing is that I have to offer is me, and that even with all of that, it's somebody else saying the exact same thing. They're not going to get Michelle and Michelle's version of all of that,
Yeah, Mystic Philomena just said, competition is an illusion. No one will ever do it, present it, or touch people the way you would with that information.
Exactly.
So
that's
no
kind
word,
of like, so that's kind of the same thing I'm saying is that, I have the Michelle touch, which is, and everyone else is going to have their own version, and they're going to tackle a certain audience that's best suited for them. And I'm going to tackle the audience best suited for me.
And Morgan says, if you do shield your thoughts from going out, do you run the risk of shielding greater thoughts from coming in?
I don't know. That's a big question. That's a big question.
I'm thinking about like putting them in a box or something. Just put them in a little box, close them up. Now, I've made spirits go into eggs before, so I could do that.
What if you're already doing it? Like me, I've spent 8 years working on this stuff, really perfecting it. And so I'm working here. I mean, I'm actually doing this with clients. And just over the last year, I have seen everybody blowing up with the same stuff.
We probably shouldn't worry about it, Michelle.
Yeah. Well, I'm not worried about it.
I am.
Okay.
We probably should just maybe let's just be totally frank and let's be totally vulnerable here. Is this manifestations of our ego? Do we need to grow beyond that?
You're probably right. I mean, because I will tell you something that happened to me. Oh, this is so cool. So last night I decided that I was going to meditate and fall asleep to some frequencies. And I put on 528. So I have it, and I found a YouTube video that plays it for 9 hours. So I just put it on and I started to, go to sleep, and I thought, okay, I'll have some really good dreams. This will be really good. And as I was meditating in the very beginning, before I started to fall asleep, I found that it was hard to hold the frequency. And it was interesting because in my life and what I experience, I usually find that I'm a much higher vibration than most of the people I meet.
Interesting.
Okay. So here I am playing this vibration, and I'm feeling like I'm having a hard time getting up here. So it helped me see my flaws.
Interesting.
And not because before I was like arrogant, thought I was, totally awesome or anything like that. It's not that way. I was just saying that it just kind of helped me really recognize like where those things were, and ego was one of them. It's interesting you just said that, and I never really recognized that, but it did come up. And I think that it is something that, and being vulnerable here is something that I probably should work on. And because obviously I wouldn't be saying, gosh, I'm so frustrated that people are taking my ideas,
Well, I think that to do what we do with any level of effectiveness does require a healthy ego. And I'm not one of these people that says all ego's bad, all ego's the enemy. I don't buy that. I think there's such a thing as healthy ego. I think there's such a thing as balanced ego. I think there's such a thing as ego that serves you and serves others. But there's also out of balance ego. There's also runaway ego.
I agree.
And I don't think that any of us can really operate and help many people without some healthy manifestation of ego. So I'm not looking to put ego on a cross, so to speak. I'm just looking to keep it from, here's a good one. Ego is a great servant, but it's a lousy master.
That's a really good quote. I think What's his name? Milam quoted that.
I just made that
Dan
up.
Milam. Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting. Dan Milam actually quoted that in his book.
See? Stealing
Yeah.
my ideas.
See, there you go. There it is again. You know, you're talking about how ego can be good, and it's interesting because there's other emotions that kind of can serve the same purpose. And for many years, I was absolutely opposed to anger. And I remember a man coming up to me in like a spiritual store, and somehow or another I was talking to somebody about anger and how you have to release it and all this sort of stuff. And he kind of tapped me on the shoulder and he goes, anger isn't always bad. And I just looked at him like, he is freaking insane. You know, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. And as I've kind of like stepped back, and there were certain situations in my life where I may not have felt like embrace the anger, like let it consume me and like turn me into cancer or something. But I have chosen to get angry because I felt that it was the best representation of what needed to happen at the time.
Well, Michelle, let me ask you this. And Mystic Philomena just came up with another great quote. We don't come into this life with anything that's not useful. Your ego is your driver. Without it, you don't have the drive to do what we came to do. But I'm pretty sure that when Amanda was little and your other, I forget your favorite child's name.
Taylor.
What's his name? Taylor. When they were little, if some person was coming up to snatch them, your anger would be activated and you would go and do what Mama Bear needs to do. And would you say that's an unrighteous use of anger?
No, it's a righteous use.
Not at all. Exactly. So anger does have a righteous use as well as ego has a righteous use.
Absolutely. I've had a couple of situations where I had very similar to that, where I had to use anger. I had somebody threaten my life and my family, and he was a police officer, and he was pissed off because his wife left him, and he was basically, you know, telling me that if I don't tell him where she's at, that he's imagine what a police officer could do if he just shows up at your house, you know, with all the power I have, and I have guns and all this sort of stuff. And I marched myself down to his office and talked to his I recorded him saying that, and
wow.
And I got him fired.
Oh, he got fired?
Yeah.
Did he come after you after that?
No, I never heard from him again.
Yeah, I will never start a fight. I will never start a physical confrontation. I'll do everything I can to avoid it. But if a need arises, I will finish one.
Well, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying, is that sometimes there's a place for it. I mean, there was when Amanda was in cosmetology school, they decided to change the rules on a few things, and they have a handbook and they make you sign it. And so there was a specific rule that got changed, and they told her that they were suspending her, and she only had like a week left before she graduated. And they said they were suspending her for 6 months. And this was very devastating for her because she only had a week left. Sure. And so I set up an appointment to talk to the head person. And when I went in, I asked them I was very calm, and I asked them what the problem was. And they said, well, here's the handbook. And they showed it to me. And they said, there's where it is, and it's highlighted. And I said, okay, can you show me where her signature is? And they said, well, this is the new one. We don't have a signature. And I said, I'm sorry, Amanda, can you hand me that? And she handed me a book. And I said, this is the one that has her signature. If you can provide me another one that has another signature, then it's cool. But if you can't, and you continue to go ahead and proceed with these rules, my boyfriend, which at the time I had a boyfriend that was an attorney. And so I said, my boyfriend has already got this on a case and he's ready to draw it up. We will have you sued. And I said it very sternly and very matter of fact, like, and if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And she's like, oh, no, we don't have to go to that trouble. We'll just go ahead and start from scratch right now. Amanda, if you could go ahead and sign this, and we'll have you enrolled in school tomorrow. And so it was, I didn't like blow up on her and act like a crazy woman, but I had to present a level of authority and it's because I had to protect my daughter and what was going on with her. So yeah, sometimes there is a point where you have to kind of, ruffle your feathers a little bit,
Well, even the Christ said, be angry, but don't miss the mark. He said, be subtle as a serpent and gentle as a dove. Be wise as a serpent, be gentle as a dove. A serpent's gonna lay back. They're gonna rattle. If it's a rattlesnake, they're gonna warn you. But if you keep coming, finally they'll bite you.
Mm-hmm.
So in our makeup between being human and the reptilian hybrid, that reptilian part's there for a reason. That fight or flight is there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to use the flight until I have to use the fight, but it's there for a reason. And I'm going to be gentle as a dove as much as I can. But if I have to be subtle as a serpent or wise as a serpent, I will. And I think that's what the Christ taught us.
So there's a saying that no one ever died from a snake bite. What they died from is the venom that eventually expanded and spread and consumed and took over their whole body.
And they might have died from stupidity of keeping on when the snake was trying to warn them.
True. True. But the point behind that is that it's not the bite, it's the venom.
Right.
And so, like, if you let anger become a venom inside of your body, you see what I'm saying?
So you can bite sometimes if you have to, but you're not venomous. You're just trying to end a situation in the danger of a situation. And we have venom, we have bites, but we don't have venom.
Right. So you can bite somebody without venom, or somebody can bite you and you don't allow the venom you don't take in the venom. Like you become like.
And some people, Michelle, are like those dinosaurs on Jurassic Park, where they don't even have to bite you. They just try to spit their venom all over you.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure we shield ourselves from that kind of crap.
Right, exactly. Just don't allow it to consume you. In other words, you just kind of shake it off. Like don't let that stuff get to you.
Like that great spiritual guru Taylor Swift said, shake it off.
Shake it off. Yeah. Like a wet dog.
Exactly, like a wet dog. And if you ever watch a slow motion of a wet dog shaking,
yes,
man, it reminds me of Jerry Lee Lewis. There is a whole lot of shaking going on.
Oh God, I know.
And it's very coordinated and it's very exacting, and wow.
I have two dogs. I have two dogs. And one of them is a really large dog. He's a big, huge pit bull.
So person thinks they're going to come into my chat room and call me a dummy.
Why did they call you a dummy?
The serpent was never the problem, dummy. So see, this is perfect example. I'm not mad. I'm not angry, but their comments will never show up on my channel again. There you go. That's biting without venom.
There you go. I don't understand why people even come to your channel if they're coming to your channel just to cause trouble. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like if they don't agree with you, all they have to do is just step away and go watch somebody else.
I think some of them are just, they're automated trolls. Some of them are paid trolls. Some of them, live in their mom's basement and don't have jobs and got tired of playing Nintendo and couldn't collect enough Coke bottles this month to pay for their internet access. So they got to do something else. And then some of them, and this is why I try to give everybody at least 3 or 4 chances. I think some of them are really seeking and they're mad and they're lashing out. So I try to give them enough, space to say, okay, if this person's really seeking truth and they're being mad, I'll give them a little space. But at the end of the day, I mean, what's the old saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I give you 4 or 5 times. 5th time, it would be shame on me. So, but I mean, even again, going back to the Christ, he said, beware if all men speak well of you. So if everybody loves you, you're probably not doing much right.
Well, I think that the thing that I keep on preaching to everybody is, let go of that shit. Like, don't hold on to it. I mean, it's like,
That should be on a t-shirt.
I know, just let go of that shit, because as long as we are,
I'm going to steal your idea and make a t-shirt.
Yeah, okay. Well, if I see a t-shirt that says that, no, you go for it.
Available at www.jeffreydarty.com.
I'm going to have to put it on my website first. No, so I think that what we're doing is we're still acting like animals. I mean, we're still acting very primitive. If you think about, you go back in time and everybody's fighting over, I mean, there are wars over an opinion on what they think is right and what they think is wrong. You know, oh, we're smarter and we're more intelligent and we have this, that, and the other. So we're going to steal your land and kill all your wife and kids and everything and take all your land. Oh, because we're better, because we're white, you know, and you're an Indian and you're just a savage. It's
well,
like,
my God's better than your God.
My God's better than your God. That's another one. Look at what happens in the Middle East. I mean, it's constant fighting all the time.
And it's the same God. That's the funny thing. It's the same exact being.
It's
just calling them different names.
I mean, it's all we are doing. When you guys out there listen to me, if you are acting this way, all you are is you're acting the exact same way as these primitive people from years ago. I mean, you're not evolving, and as we should evolve in a way that's accepting and stop being so attached to your opinion. Open your mind and allow new thoughts to come through, because what if you're not open-minded, then what happens? Then progress doesn't happen.
Right.
There's no way that we can ever progress spiritually, mentally, psychologically, technologically, technology. You can't even say it.
Technologically.
Yeah, we can't progress in that way if we are so close-minded. And if you notice, humanity as a species is either black or white. And really, truth really falls right in the middle. It's the gray area. You
know, Sandra D'Angelo, and if you're not subscribed to her channel, take a look at it.
I just did, actually, after seeing the interview with her.
Excellent. She's always talking about the middle way. And of course, that's from the Tao. Striving for the middle way. That's where her thing is right now. And sometimes I get tired of hearing it, to be frank with you, but it's true. The middle way, because I tend to be an extremist. But it's really true. You want to get to the middle way. There is no black. There is no white. There is no right. There is no wrong. There is no good. There is no evil. It's just energy. And we just have to find that middle way. We have to find I hate the gray area, but the truth and victory really is in the gray area.
Well, the gray area is just an acceptance.
You know what it is, Michelle?
What?
Think about Tombstone, the Old West. I love the movie Tombstone. If you're a gunfighter, okay, here's a good one.
Okay.
The big battle in that show, the ultimate gunfight is between Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday. And the one thing that I just noticed just now, I've seen that movie 50 times. I'm just thinking in my mind, I believe Johnny Ringo only had one gun. Doc Holliday had two guns. So Johnny Ringo was unbalanced. He was way over to one side. Doc Holliday was balanced. He had two guns. So if you're going to be a spiritual cowboy or a spiritual cowgirl, spiritual Doc Holliday or a spiritual
I like that one. I'm going to steal that one from you.
Have two guns.
Spiritual cowgirl.
Have two guns.
Yeah. Dude, I'm going to do a show like this.
Why wouldn't you have two guns?
Yeah.
And if you remember, I believe, no, he didn't actually do that. But one of the times they were almost got in a gunfight, and Doc had a gun on his hip, but he also had one behind his back. Subtle as a serpent. There's a lot of lessons in Tombstone.
Yeah, wow. I'm going to have to go watch it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Honestly, I kind of feel like, though, that middle ground runs into, it's about acceptance. It's really about, like, just allowing this person be that person be that person without judgment, and just let them be. You know, you don't have to agree with somebody.
Absolutely.
I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and she was talking about this conflict that her and her husband have and how they're fighting all the time. And I said, okay, so when he doesn't agree with you and he's arguing with you, how does that make you feel? And she said, it makes me feel rejected. Now, this is interesting. Okay, because I really want you to listen to this. If a person feels rejected just because, I mean, that's a common feeling. If somebody doesn't agree with you, you feel rejected. And the bottom line is that most people just want to be understood. But understood usually means you agree with me.
Or people just want to be listened to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I got upset over the vet thing the other day, and because they canceled my appointment 3 times, and I was trying to get my dog in to get spayed before she went into heat. And I have an unneutered dog that is running around licking her everywhere and humping the air. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to get this dog in. And they canceled it 3 times. So I had to go to a different vet. And I was frustrated. So I called my husband on the phone and I'm like, ah, you know, and he's like just listening to me. He just listened. He didn't like say, well, you should have done this and you should have done that, blah, blah, blah. He just listened. And then he kind of laughed at me and I was like, all right, good. I'm good. He kind of.
It took me 3 failed marriages to figure out that sometimes you people, women, you don't want answers. You just want somebody to listen.
I just want him to hear me out. Let me just ask it. And I told him, I said, all I need is a bouncing board. I don't need answers because I know what the answers are. I'm on my way to do it. And he's like, okay. And I just need the frustration out. And he goes, okay, go for it. Are you?
But if you're doing a background check on me, or if you have a private eye following me, you'll only see 1 marriage on my record because the other 2 were annulled. Just so you know. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
To carry on the Johnny Ringo, Doc Holliday analogy a step further.
Okay.
In the big battle, Johnny Ringo's like, okay, Lunger. And he's all mean and he's throwing out anger and he's in anger. He's not in control anymore. And Doc Holliday, cool as a cucumber, is like, say when? It's almost a joke to Doc Holliday. He's in control. He's in that middle way. He's not all angry like Johnny Ringo is. And Johnny Ringo gets shot in the head.
Because he's out of control.
And Doc Holliday, cool as a cucumber. And not only does Doc shoot him, but as he's dying, Doc Holliday's like, you don't know Daisy. You don't know Daisy at all. So have 2 guns.
He's right there in the middle, you know. He's not angry. He's not too wussy. He's like, because he knows what he needs to be done and he's all about it, but he's focused and he's ready to go in. And, you know, like I said, I just think that that's kind of the thing, is that we kind of have to find that middle space and stop being so judgmental about other people's feelings.
And you know what he says to him when he's laying on the ground dead?
What do you say?
He pats him on the chest. He says, what does he say? He says, you were just too high strung. Your heart couldn't bear the strain. And that's so true. That's what we're talking about.
That's exactly what we're talking about. You got to let go of that. You got to let go of that anger.
You got to let go of that shit.
Let go of that shit.
And guess what? If you don't let go of that shit, somebody's going to bust a cap in your head.
So when
sooner or later.
I was telling one of my clients about this story about what happened, you know, because I was like, look, I'm real. I get angry too. You know, that stuff gets me upset. And I told him about this whole situation with my dog and everything that panned out. And I said, and then I'm on the phone with my husband and I'm like, and I'm so upset. And then they did this, blah, blah, blah. Do you realize what? And he's like, and I said, and I was angry, but I was happy. And he goes, what? And I go, yeah, I was angry, but yet I was happy. And he goes, I don't understand. And I go, I'm a happy person. I'm always happy. I'm always in that space, but I chose to release these feelings and let them go. They were just something that popped out of me like a zit. And like, it's like, it just kind of came out and you're just like, and you just let it go.
Right.
Sorry, you didn't like the analogy.
No. Okay. But that's interesting.
And
so after all of this talk, do you think Yahweh's dead?
Oh, yeah. I think Yahweh's dead.
So who is this person masquerading around as Yahweh?
No, I think in the Bible it might have been Marduk. I still think it's Marduk. I'm not 100% convinced. I don't know. I kind of think that Marduk and Yahweh are the same one. But this name that is in maybe that's just a different name. Maybe it's pronounced differently because the V is pronounced Va.
Va, yeah. Yahweh, Vahe.
Yeah. So maybe.
Yod-He, Vod-He.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
So are Christians, Muslim, and Jews worshiping a dead God?
I think they're yeah, I think they are.
So at best, they're worshiping a thought form. You know what? It's so typical. Really, what they're worshiping is themselves. They're worshiping their own projections and the projections of their. It's the biggest circle jerk in the history of the world.
It's a collective consciousness of a thought.
Yeah.
It's like NFL.
It's a soul farm. That's the
Right.
definition of a soul farm.
The NFL is an organization where everybody's like totally into the game and all their thoughts and their, you know, it's like when there's a game played, they're like, we won. Like you weren't on the field playing.
I hate that. Oh, we're playing. Really? When did you start? When did you get hired by the Houston Texans?
But it's a we. Okay, it's a collective consciousness. And I kind of think that in this religion, it's kind of the same thing. It's a collective consciousness of energy, of like a thought form that's kind of presenting itself, and it gives it power.
So why is Joel encouraging people to worship a dead God?
Oh, we're back to the Joel thing.
Because I'm thinking about listening to Joel and see if you're right, if he is trying to bring people around. But he, at the end of the day, he tells them to worship Jesus, right? A dead God.
Well, I don't know that Joel really probably even has ever read the Sumerian text. I don't know, but I can tell you that his heart's in the right place. And somebody asked him if he had a gay friend and they were gonna get married, would he go to the wedding? And he said absolutely. And he got ridiculed for that.
Would he marry a gay couple? Would he perform the ceremony?
He would go to a gay marriage. He would go to a wedding.
Would he perform the ceremony?
He said that he would do that. And everybody criticized him. He was all over YouTube and everybody was criticizing him for a while. This is a couple of years ago. And then there was the same thing that happened. Like they asked, does Muslims go to heaven? And he said yes.
Ooh, Joel's in on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's end with this. This is great. Licinius 9, busting out a Mark Twain quote, and I love Mark Twain quotes.
Okay.
Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than onto anything on which it is poured.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we were talking about the venom. If you're not going to die from the snake bite, you're dying from the venom.
Exactly.
You know,
so we could say anger is a venom that does more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured or injected. But
if you're not projecting it, like I didn't project it on the people in the veterinarian clinic. Okay. It was PetSmart, by the way. And I didn't project it onto PetSmart. I just called my husband. I said, okay. And I just put my hands up in the air and I said, okay, I'm leaving. And I left and I called my husband and I said, okay, I need a bouncing board. And he allowed himself to be that space that had like a bubble wrapped around him or everything just kind of went bouncing off him, you know? I mean, it was a safety net for me and for him. And so that's, that right there, it doesn't harm anybody. It doesn't hurt anybody, but I was giving myself permission to allow those feelings to come out so they didn't sit inside of me and turn into a venom.
So great lessons for anyone that's a husband in a relationship. Just listen.
Just listen. Yes.
Love it. Well, Michelle, our time's about gone. Tell us how people can get in touch with you if they want to get your book, if they want to learn more about your stuff, or if they're in Houston and want to visit you.
Okay. So the website for my book is youcanbeawesomebook.com. And as far as I have a YouTube channel, Michelle Thompson Life Coach. I also have I have a YouTube channel called Michelle Thompson Life Coach, and I have Facebook where it says Michelle Thompson Life Coach. All my information's on all of that, so anybody can reach me that way.
Excellent.
If you go to my what do you call it? The You Can Be Awesome book, it has my phone number, everything. On my Facebook, it has my phone number. I just tell people don't call me because I don't answer the phone. So if you just send me a text message or an email, and I'll just get back to you as soon as I have some time. I do
Excellent.
respond to all my emails and texts, by the way. It may take me some time, but I do try to be considerate.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for being with me tonight. Look forward to talking with you again next Monday night. This was a great talk, interesting talk. And tell somebody about the show. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to Michelle's channel and check out her new book. For Michelle Thompson, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. You're the Gospel Truth Army. I salute you. And we will see y'all later.